Welcome to the Creative Condition podcast, an ongoing series of conversations and considerations to help people understand and embrace their own unique creativity for fulfilling lives and brilliant careers. My name is Ben Talon. I'm an illustrator and author, and I bring 16 years of creative industry experience working with the New York Times, The Guardian, the Premier League, and more. And I invite designers, artists, psychologists, scientists, coaches, athletes, sensitivity experts, and all kinds of thought leaders to help us broaden our knowledge of creativity. Creativity is a fundamental pillar of human happiness, a vital ingredient in the solutions to our problems, but so often misunderstood. The show is supported by founding sponsor and B Corp, Illustration X. Take a look at their stunning range of illustrators and animators at illustrationx.com. If you like the music for the show, it's by Dirty Freud, who you can listen to now on Spotify and all good music streaming services. Hello and welcome to the Creative Condition. My name is Ben Talon. I am your host. How the hell is it 2025? Can you believe that? Quarter way into the 21st century. I'm at an age now, 41, I'll be 42 in February, where I can look back on far too many things and go, it's been 20 years since that, it's been 25 years since that. And I'm not talking about childhood stuff, I'm talking about formative things in my life, from adolescence, university, college, mind-bending stuff. I know that if my parents or mother-in-law, for example, could hear this, they'd go, shut up, you're a spring chicken, you don't know anything. And that's the way it goes, isn't it? Passed down, kicked the can down the road. But I'm not going to lie, 2025, it sounds weird. How are you guys? Are you well? I hope you're good. Thank you for listening. This is the Creative Condition. Things are changing up this year. It's a period of evolution and it's slightly freaky. I've just released the latest diary entry. You'll see it on the website if you go today, thecreativecondition.com, where I have a slight meltdown. I say I have a slight... I'm speaking like I'm a character, which is kind of cathartic to write about myself as such. That was just this morning, just a couple of hours ago. I'm feeling a little better now as we get into the afternoon. But I've done this for the last few years. I've got in on day one and fallen victim to the change of pace over Christmas and New Year. You know, unstructured days where you might get up a bit later. You might do, if you've got a dog, the dog walk at a different time in my case. You're out with the kids. That looks like something different each day. Sometimes you might have a more domestic day. Actually got to sit and read a couple of chapters of book. Not just in the evenings this time. The kids are nearly 5 and they've been playing together so well, which is covered in some of the diary entries, either this week or next week. I'm going to start the year with back-to-back diary entries because I've been keeping up on that over Christmas. It's the only bit of work that I have been doing, but it's been nice because it's been good for me. I like writing these thoughts, these musings, and that's what this Creative Condition diary is, the creativity diary. I hope you've been enjoying it. Let me know your thoughts. The feedback has been positive so far. Massive thank you to the founding sponsor of the show as we head into this. I think it's the 10th year. I always get confused, but it's been a decade of this show now. 2015 we started, so coming into the decade mark in 2025, and that feels weird, good in some ways that it's been kept going this long. I mean, it hasn't been too much of an effort. There's been an ebbing and flowing, a frequency of the show. I am still on the fence about going bi-weekly. I'm not going to lie, I might do that moving forward this year. Well, at the moment, I'm going to keep giving you these diary entries. I'm going to break them up with guest episodes, slightly less frequent on those because I have to double down now and focus on my coaching, on my illustration, because while I've been building this platform, the Creative Condition, I have been slightly neglectful of my responsibilities in my other areas of business. And that's a decision that I didn't make lightly because I love all of the things that I do, but it's about creating an ecosystem that is sustainable. And I don't know about you guys, but I've had panics that you will have heard about on this podcast over AI, over the things beyond my control, the world events. And if I just keep my eggs in the basket as an illustrator, it goes one of two ways. It either does really well for me and I make good money, because you can make good money as an illustrator if you strike well and you know your brand and you get yourself out there to the right people. But it could also corner me if things change, if I need to move on my feet. And the deciding factor for me was the brain that I've got, which seeks variation. So for me, that was pivotal. and therefore I've always decided to explore what feels good to me, pursue my broader creativity. And now I'm arriving in 2025 with a brand and a website for my work as an author and writer, illustrator and artist, and also as a creative coach and founder of this platform, The Creative Condition, and this podcast. So welcome back if you're regular. Hello if you're new, apologies for the opening ramble. It's the new year, I'm getting things off my chest, and this is going to be the diary entry. So before I do that, please take a moment to check out last year's episodes on LinkedIn and on the Creative Condition, which is at Creative Condition _ on Instagram. On the account there, I shared an entire list of 2024's podcast episodes, so you can see, you can have an overview, and you can pick something that sounds cool. Go and have a look now. It's on all good platforms as ever: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and all of that good stuff. And please do also consider taking a moment to help out the Ukrainian Institute, who are a fantastic organisation who support the Ukrainian creative community during this horrific time of war. You can find them at ui.org.ua. And you can do anything from sharing some of their artists' work on your social feed, something that you like. Alternatively, you can commission them, or you can get in touch and support those artists in another way if there's something that you can think of. So please take the time to do that, ui.org.ua. For the founding sponsor, again, Illustration X have been here since day one. I cannot overstate, just what that means for Harry to see my constant rambling about creativity and to suggest podcasting, and not only suggest it but encourage and back me through sponsorship for 10 years to go and do this. It's just truly incredible. You can't buy that kind of mentorship, that encouragement, that trust. And I hope to, I like to think that I've sort of lived up to that to some degree. At times the show's been ramshackle. I have been feeling it out as I go. I will always be doing that to a degree. But I love it. I love talking to you guys, the listeners. I love talking to the people that I've been working with as a coach. So you can check all that stuff out over at thecreativecondition.com. Head to the coaching section. I got a booking over Christmas for a pit stop. Very, very exciting. I'm not going to give names and all that and details because that's confidentiality, working with my clients, but that was an unexpected delight because the website has not been long launched. It was a podcast listener. The pit stop is essentially a one-to-one foundational creativity audit. I work through all of the specifics, all of the nebulous aspects of creativity, everything from your environment to your sense of humour to your reasons for getting into this in the first place, your sense of play, of joy, your family dynamic. We go through everything. It gets quite personal. We also look at your hopes and fears and dreams, your current work situation, blind spots, disdains, frustrations, joys, all of the things. And then I go away after what can be between 2 and 4 hour session, lovely informal conversation like this podcast, and then I come back to you with what so far has been anywhere between 10 and 15 pages worth of notes of recommendation, suggestions, recommended books, potential steps to getting reconnected with your purest optimal creativity. I really love doing these, so it was a joy to get a book in this Christmas. So I'm very excited about that. Also, talking about a potential new Creative Condition talk for an agency coming up this month. So that's very exciting, and as somewhat waylaid this morning's panic, that will be covered in next week's Creative Diary, a Creativity Diary. But let's get into it. So the first post, 12th of December 2024. Are you listening? The detachment from much of my social media feels good. It comes with downsides, slightly fewer podcast listeners, though it's a minefield trying to get a real sense of the causes and effects of that, and that now deeply embedded sense that you're missing out on so much good stuff. The thing is, when I check it, this is rarely the case. Every time I go away anywhere or spend more than a few hours without access to my smartphone, my brain is certain there'll be so many pressing matters awaiting me. And while here and there a decent email containing paid work might have landed, a mild personal life concern, this belief is never founded on anything other than my conditioning at the hands of tech companies. On one Friday night check on the way home after a night out, I saw previous podcast guest Yasmin Ali, see episode in the website version of this diary entry, share a book called Unheard, The Medical Practice of Silencing by Dr. Rogeshri Daryawan. This got me right off the bat, and I bought the audiobook before my key was in the door. It's about listening, predominantly in healthcare, given Dr. Daryawan's role as a HIV and sexual health doctor, but its broader themes, why people go unheard, knowing a person, culture, and shared challenges are relevant to creativity. One huge downside to the overuse of tech was that I found myself, at times, less than properly present. I'd forget conversations, my mind elsewhere, and the subsequent self-loathing was fierce when I upset the person trying to talk to me. This still happens after a mentally demanding day, but now I know when it's time for a little downtime to get some cognitive function back, as opposed to allowing my mind to be pulled in 1,000 different directions by those online vacuous time thief platforms. Following on from The Anxious Generation, that's a book by Jonathan Haidt, by the way, Unheard is something of a cautionary tale. I find the future state of our relationships unnerving. If none of us can hold our attention long enough to apply ourselves to anything, where does that end? Dr. Rogeshri has written A Corker, a wonderful document of how poor listening, preconceptions, biases and cultural assumptions result in stark, troubling physical realities for too many people. It's a brilliantly written rallying cry for more time, patience and compassion between doctor and patient in the face of overwhelming pressures from every angle for besieged healthcare workers. I was delighted, just as I sat drinking in her stories and making notes, to hear her wax lyrical about the power of the arts to support greater listening, understanding and well-targeted action for positive change. With any luck, Dr. Deriouan and I will soon get to chat for the creative condition. 12th of December 2024, it all counts. I'm in a reading frenzy. Reading, listening, same thing, isn't it? Audiobooks entered my life during early twin parenthood when I couldn't keep my eyes open for very long at all when the babies fell asleep. The dog barks. The dog walks became my little escape, sitting in the woods listening to stories. Since then, they've stuck around, primarily to consume books as part of this ongoing study of creativity at a speed I can't manage in my preferred physical format. Audio is great for long drives or while working on something that requires little conscious thought too. And last night, having finished Dr. Rogeshri Deriouan's brilliant Unheard, I realised I had no new non-fiction to begin. I noticed a misplaced guilt creep in while considering Haruki Murakami's new novel, The City and Its Uncertain Walls. This is the trappings of the obvious approach and the first step to falling in line with everybody else. Okay, in my defence, my range of non-fiction is wildly broad. I'd never restrict my learning to books on design, art and creativity. I read plenty, they're beautiful and inspiring, but if I stop there, that's just a literary algorithm, isn't it? Giving me what I want. No, what I'm predicted to want. Like the insufferable football fans who endure the violent pumping of their team only to hold up a phone pointing to XG, expected goals, statistic, as if it shows who really won. Calculated from all kinds of bullshit stats, including number of boots to have stamped upon certain blades of grass. Or something. Maybe not. Sorry. You get the point though. Vary, enrich, vary, enrich, vary, enrich. There are thousands of great, more established coaches than me, but I have enough life experience to know that counts for nothing as long as I do it my way. So I fill my head with anything remotely interesting to ensure I see things differently. So, what is the end game? Because that's important. It used to be to become a full-time illustrator, and in my youthful naivety, I just used to look at a lot of contemporary art and design. No surprise that during that time I struggled to find my own feet and chase trends. These days, professionally and in my life, I adore learning about the world I inhabit, worlds beyond, and to me, the most beautiful thing in all of it, creativity. However, creativity is comprised of infinite and ever-changing elements, and they differ for each person. If I just read about creativity, I get book smart. I'll be an intellectual ramrod, able to tell you all kinds of interesting tidbits of theoretical information, but will that benefit my coaching clients when something bad happens in their personal lives? Or when some twat in their workplace yanks their hair and runs off with the promotion? I don't know. I've been self-unemployed since I was 25 and I'll be 42 in February. But whatever they come to me with, I pride myself on empathy, understanding, and crucially, my ability to put the exact circumstances into my large skull, knowing a solution will emerge, a solution another coach could never have delivered in the same way, a solution tailored for them, relevant to their lives, here and now, not a regurgitated Rick Rubin quote, as brilliant as they are. They belong to Rick. Saying it back to someone without great reason is silly. That's why people have live, laugh, love on their bed and wonder why passion is like a wet match. Too far? Maybe. It only matters if the right dots are joined in quoting. The last podcast of 2024 is with the fly fisher and author of Fly Fishing with Leonardo da Vinci, David Lederson. It's phenomenal. and will probably bring me a dismal amount of downloads, but I'm long past caring. David told me that Leonardo loathed people quoting the work of others for this very reason. What I learned from a lifelong businessman and fly fisher, only time will tell. But the moment I second-guessed my instinctive pull towards the Murakami book, I pressed buy now, because one day, somewhere between a fly fisher, a great fiction author, and a moment in the dark on the end of my bed when I was supposed to be packing for a long drive north, I'll be able to do something I otherwise wouldn't have. That's enough for me. 16th December 2024, my very own sunrise. Later leaving for the morning dog walk than I would have liked. Older and wiser though, so I don't fret. I just stay present and see what that brings. It brings the most beautiful sunrise which is there one moment, gone the next. It's so tranquil and rich, the way it paints the top 7 trees along the edge of a small meadow, an orange straight from a Monet winter. Well, sunrise. It's been a few weeks since I banned my phone on this walk, and my energy is good. Brain less scattered than it was back then. I stopped in the woods, stood, and watched the same orange sunlight dappled on the leaves, took a breath, and grew aware of 2 small birds flitting from branch to branch close by. The dog watched me, eager to get to the bit where the ball comes out of my pocket when it's game on. I obliged. That's when I arrived at the 7 trees, when he busied himself chewing grass. All was still again. I thought about it as I watched the stunning colours. It occurred to me that this was just for me. Of the entire human race, currently around 8 billion, only I witnessed this sunrise on those trees. From right here, up close, beneath them. And the moment was perfect and spiritual. As it dissipated and turned yellow, as the sun hid behind low clouds, I walked on and thought about how profound that is. Even now, with hyperconnectivity, with 1,000 miles an hour lives and algorithmic homogenization of cultures and ideas, each of us remain unique. The authors of stories that can be whatever the fuck we make them. To feel that so clearly in nature felt phenomenal, even if I did then have to pick up a pile of dog dirt with a little cornstarch bag afterwards. And there really is no way that the immersive scene, the feeling, the smell of the damp grass, the gentle breeze on my skin and the birdsong could ever be portrayed or replicated. Not AI, not Monet, not Murakami. The closest thing I can offer in terms of sheer dreaminess at the moment. Not any shitty camera phone capture or decent camera shot for that matter. Nothing. Don't get me wrong, somewhere down the road, it's likely I'll use the experience in a story, an illustration, or a metaphor or something. But first, it has to be experienced in the fullest. Then, storytelling can use the ingredients to make something new. The closest we can get to the here and now. But why settle for second best? 18th December 2024, Ryman Shake-Up. It's quiet in Ryman Stationery on a Wednesday lunchtime. I'm looking for the finest fineliner available when a loud voice smashes the fragile piece, asking the man on the till if he can come and reach a box folder down. The cashier protests that he cannot leave the till because his colleague is out for lunch, but this is snuffed out. By the time the cashier and the loud customer appear at the till, I've chosen my fineliner, 0.03 nib, and sidle up behind a lad in a high-vis orange jacket who is now waiting to be served. He appears slightly younger than me. The loud block makes eye contact with both of us, and I notice a familiar wildness in his eyes, having grown up around many of these characters. Then, the inevitable addressing. Lads, go and get your prostate checked. Do it tomorrow. The man on the till is reeling. His terrified smile so empty it hurts. His silence so desperate. I'm already smirking because I love these wildcards, the ones who refuse to allow society to slip into a gentrification, big tech coma. His advice is sound. His only real flaw is the volume at which he bellows it, right there in the middle of town, when the man behind the till just needs to ride out lunch hour in the trenches. It's that impish refusal to sanction even this minor plea for mercy that delights me. I'm telling you, mine, it swelled up like this. And now his hands come up, big shovels poking out of his weighty overcoat sleeves like a Lego figurine, and it's as if he's hoisting up a record-breaking sized fruit in a local newspaper. It creeps up on you and then you are fucked. It's on the savagery of that last word that the cashier's head drops, and all I can do is giggle. When Prostate Man leaves the store chuckling, the lad in front gets out his phone and starts to Google prostate check, also giggling. All the way home, I think about the liquid gold value of that dirty energy, the mischief, the abandon, and the different way of being. How it's completely overlooked by most people when it comes to considering creativity, and how much better it could be if everyone could gain my appreciation of outliers. 19th December 2024. Creativity, the only compass. The Christmas rest looms, and I find this week brings on many reflections. Today is the second day of talking to a new arrival in Salisbury on the dog walk. Another artist, illustrator, lecturer, designer-ish hybrid. We get chatting about the hard task that is creative education in this age of data obsession and hypercapitalism. This conversation starts because she asks how my deadline is looking. Last week the deadlines were several owing to much needed pile-up of projects at the end of one of my quietest years. This week I'm illustrating the biography I've ghostwritten, but as a short story. My exclusive focus is on this one brief, a bit like the best kind of college project. She's curious about how I ended up on such a hybrid project, and we get talking about the need in 2024 to lead with creativity and not a job title. A coaching client of mine goes under designer who animates. We've been exploring an idea of his, an opportunity he's spotted to bring a project management aspect to his practice. This is good for him because he's got great initiative. He attributes some of this to his father, who always gave him a long leash and instead of feeding him easy answers, encouraged him to work things out and take the lead. He's an example of this, a person with some core skills, but crucially the initiative and vision to take them to places and people who value them, packaged with his personality. This, I tell the new friend, is what I've been doing for years. It's hard at times, because I never know what to call myself. Illustrator, artist, writer, coach, educator, I don't fucking know. Creative doesn't cut it because, as I've written and talked about extensively, it's far too general a term, often bracketed as either time wasting or mere artistry. So I pick a hat and I wear it confidently depending on the outcome I'm hoping for, according to who I'm talking to and how I can best bring something to their table. Anyway, on this brief I'm truly alive because it demands all of the traits and skills I most like to dance between, mixing like a witch's brew. Empathy, sensitivity. I've spent 8 hours listening to this person's wild ride through life, and it's my job to turn it into something alive. And as restless as he is, dictating and transcribing won't cut it. He came to me for my creativity. Writing, in a prose-style non-fiction. Illustration, conceptual in part, and art. I'm as much an artist as I am an illustrator. And design, we're laying out the book between us. Editing, storytelling. I'm boring myself now, but my point is this. No one vocational course can teach this, and in 2024, nor should it try. I didn't simply learn to illustrate on my degree. I went to the pub a lot and basked in the stories shared by my lecturers about absolutely everything, from the obscure and eccentric to culture, politics, whatever. This carried into the studio. My love of storytelling had been in me since the earliest of ages, and the course they built fostered it and showed me many ways to use it. But today, when any action must be justified financially to avoid damnation by politicians in newspapers and paranoid well-meaning parents, this more diffused, natural, fun nurturing of personality, interests and hidden abilities is the work of the devil. Creativity and personal development must be at the core of any creative education because automation and increasing big tech dominance are revolutionising the creative industry. No matter how shit we think generative AI looks, and in my opinion, it's obscenely soulless. It is a cheap solution for many with passable results when boxes must be ticked. It will impact every singular trade, and already has been doing. Illustrator, animator, designer, filmmaker, writer, by no means mortally threatened. But now, faced with a ubiquitous, affordable competitor, heightening the need to bring far more than visuals to the dance. But true creativity, the kind where our life stories, experiences, ideas and view on the world are called upon to drive these skills, less so. And that's what we natter about as the dogs bark and run around. Courses need titles and structure, and students want guarantees and certainty when they're paying silly money for a degree. But now, more than ever before, at an art school approach where self-initiated exploration, play and curiosity are fostered and grown is essential to prepare the next wave of industry talent for the world in 2025 and beyond, to instill adaptability when things move so fucking fast. But there's a huge gap between the two mindsets, and neither of us knows how it will be bridged. So in the end, We just watch the dogs and remark on the way they bark more than the others. 20th of December 2024, Big Santa Slippers. I message a close friend to see if he's on the couch yet. This isn't pleasantry, I need to know that he is. This particular friend works like a dog and he's passionate about his craft, code, which means he doesn't take much time off work. So he commits to his Christmas holiday break in a big way. Each year, I've found myself taking increasing amounts of vicarious pleasure from my vision of his idling. We met last weekend and I nodded along as he detailed what TV shows he had queued up, what he'll be snacking on, and how long he intends to be horizontal. This ridiculousness began when he found a way to make his passion his profession. Caught in the classic self-unemployment trap, work long hours, say yes to too much, burn out, we both cherished the chance to down tools and recharge during the Christmas period. That was until I became a father of twins in 2020. No more was my Christmas break anything to do with relaxation or rest. 5 a.m. rises, wailing babies up at all hours, and general daily subservience evolved into the current cannonball Christmas excitement as they approached 5. As this friend now enjoys the fruits of older, independent sons, he has regained full control of his Christmas patterns, so I indulge in his well-earned sluggery. It's the closest I'll get to a fireside with a good book and a whiskey for the next decade or so. So, what in all likelihood is not that spectacular becomes, in my mind, a magical showcase of lazing, the sort so decadent that it has not been seen since emperors of ancient wherever took the piss, decadence in robes, lurched over joints of meat and half a vineyard of grapes. In my message, I asked him if he had massive Santa slippers on. I knew he didn't, but he once spotted a pair of big gorilla slippers in our teenage years, so I took a punt. Pure fantasy as I close my eyes and picture him shuffling back to the sofa in them with a new plate of filth. The funny thing about all this is, there's a bizarre lesson about the power of thought. I'm setting my mind on a better course, actually improving my mood with this silliness. The warm glow of the Christmas tree light does, if only marginally, elevate my mood. As does the fact this friend is having a positive experience. Having watched Stutz, a tremendous documentary about psychotherapist Phil Stutz and his methods of supporting the mental well-being of his clients, I read his book, The Tools. Since then I've been spending my waking 5 minutes practicing his grateful flow exercise, a meditative tactic to override any negative thoughts with a series of better imaginings of things you are grateful for. A ladder out of the spirals we tend to send ourselves into. This is often owing to negativity bias, an evolutionary self-preservation mechanism that served us well during the times of bigger predators and the likes, but in today's 24-hour news cycle world is routinely hijacked, keeping us on edge, frightened and panicked. After a tough few years as a fatigued new parent, I have far more control of the trajectory of my thoughts, and it's something I work with my coaching clients to improve because it has a huge bearing on our ability to create optimally. A few of them might even get a Christmas card with my friend's Santa slippers covered in twiglet crumbs and droplets of sherry shortly after passing out in the blue glow of his gargantuan Christmas tree in front of another Star Wars binge. 21st of December 2024. Mighty Pup Power Rider, sir. I sat drinking my coffee this morning, 6:30 a.m. The kids straight into a big Mighty Pups game. The kitchen table became the Arctic, shelves of various bases. One massive flow state, imagination snowballing, pure magic and a superb blueprint for what all creative meetings should be. Sometimes I join in, but today I recognised I would only have punctuated the purity of the play, so I read my book and listened in. This state of mind is so natural for kids, but we too readily surrender it and shut down ideas as adults. Part of my coaching work is to show ways around that. It isn't something we do consciously, but over time we accumulate fear-based characteristics and inhibitions like iron filings. I refer to this as the maturity trap, the herd mentality that makes us frightened to make a dick of ourselves. But if you remove the social norms, isn't it much more dickish to cut ourselves off from the joy in the release of play, of the laughs we get from hijinks, imagination and curiosity that helps humans stay invigorated and attuned with the world around us? In my recent chat with Disney's former head of innovation and creativity, Duncan Wardle, Duncan spoke of the need to disarm people in professional settings, to lead with topics that bring about laughter and release instead of agendas and job titles, to free them from their river of thinking. By this he meant company cultures and accepted norms that shoot down good ideas or different thinking. He said that if you start with a topic such as favourite childhood toy, people very quickly loosen up, and the joy in the room opens the door between the fully conscious state and the unconscious that brings out our lived experience and ideas generating capacities. Even in the school playground yesterday, as the kids pinballed around, fired up on the last day before the Christmas break, Mr. Ramsey, the deputy head teacher, stood grinning in his Santa pyjamas, his beard painted red and green, adorned with twinkling festive lights. Every passing parent whooped and expressed their admiration of his commitment. And while the kids fawned over this, I saw that the infectious lightheartedness achieved exactly what Duncan Wardle was on about. It created unity, lured out our invaluable childhood selves, and everything ahead of us, no matter how turbulent things are in the wider world, felt possible and magic. That's the end of this excerpt of the diary, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. You can read that over at thecreativecondition.com. Head to the diary section. The pit stop is now available, as I mentioned. That's a foundational audit of creativity. Get in touch through the Creative Condition website. If you head to the coaching section, you can read all the details, and the brand new Creative Condition talk is also available, and there's also a workshop option for businesses and agencies. So again, give me a shout if that sounds good to you. If I can help you get to the core of understanding creativity and embracing it and putting it in a context and a shape that can benefit you and your business. Love to hear from you. Hit me up, ben@bentalon.com. Thank you for listening, guys. A big thank you to the founding sponsor of the show, illustrationx.com. 10 years working together on this podcast. It feels great. Exciting times ahead. Some great guests coming up. There's going to be one more installment of this diary next week before the first guest of 2024 as I get some interviews in the bag. I just needed that little break there over Christmas. I don't know about you guys, but I do hit my wall around that time. In these dark winter nights, it can get a bit heavy. And I hope all's well with you. Get in touch. Love to hear from you from the show, ben@bentalon.com, or hit me up on LinkedIn. I'm a bit less communicative on Instagram as I once was. I do post on there. I do check the messages occasionally, but if you want a quicker response, drop me an email or a message on LinkedIn. Love to hear your feedback, your thoughts, any suggestions for episodes or topics. Always welcome. Reminds me that I am not alone in this world when I'm recording this podcast. Cheers for listening, guys. The Creative Condition book is also out. You can get that now as part of the bundle at thecreativecondition.com, also in the shop. Awesome. Cheers for listening. Take care, guys. Speak to you soon.